Hi everybody, welcome to the second week of our course. Once again, I want to share how wonderful it was to see the high level of interaction in which you engaged over the past week. I know that the distance learning format requires a lot of you, and your commitment to responding to and engaging with one another is enabling an environment of curiosity and inquisitiveness, as well as one that will allow for constructive feedback to your peers as you continue on through the course. So keep it up. The course content pages will be a bit more general when I respond to items that emerge from online conversations, and the content pages will be more of a general response. I'll respond more specifically to items that emerge in our videos. So about the discussion that emerged from the chart that I posted for the third online conversation. As one of you noted, the chart was definitely a way to spark conversation. There is never an expectation in this course that you should want to or need to agree with me or with any of your peers. As long as you frame your reactions, your responses, and your beliefs in a respectful manner and are able to contextualize back up what you suggest, that's fine. And it's great to hear the wide range of positions that you hold. I like that we bring many perspectives to our conversations. So you were talking a lot about memorization, and I think this is a great way to begin to talk about some of the themes of our course. The question of whether memorization is necessary or even important, as well as the role of frontal teaching. So there is certainly, from my perspective, room for memorization or frontal teaching. These can be important parts of many teaching environments. So the big question that is informing our work together in this class and is the umbrella for any of the questions that you have about teaching is, why are why are we employing the methods that we are employing? Always asking that question of why, to what end. So, for example, if you do ever ask students to memorize, I want you to consider why you're asking them to do that. It is because did it work for you as a student? Was it the best way that you learned? Well, that might be fine, but that's not a good enough reason to ask all of your students to engage in a lot of memorization. You might feel like it's the most efficient use of your time. Have students go home and memorize a lot, and then they can share what they learned on their own. Well, that's, I guess, okay to some degree too, but the thing that I would ask of you is, how are you having them take that memorization to another level? What are they going to use with that knowledge? You want to think about how we can be intentional educators. We want to select methods that align with your philosophy, values, and goals for teaching. And as we will explore this week, to set up and utilize our teaching space in a way that also aligns with our beliefs about how and why we want to engage our learners. About memorization or rote learning or transmission of knowledge, we might feel that there are some things that our learners just need to know. So I've often had students in my course who come from that perspective, and it's usually when they have a very limited amount of time with their learners. We all have limited amounts of time, but I want to bring the example of students in my course who were teaching an adult ed course. It's like a Judaism 101 for people who are planning for conversion. They're preparing for conversion. And every week there's a 2-hour session that covers a significant element of Judaism. So for example, the week in which they teach kashrut, many of the students will lecture for 2 hours about different pieces of kashrut. Again, there's nothing wrong with the lecture, but the question is, if you only have 2 hours total with beginners to Judaism to talk about kashrut, how would you use that time? One thing I might suggest is maybe have them do some preparatory reading at home in which they learn some of the elements of kashrut, but then use that class time to have them engage with one another. Perhaps you're doing an activity that reinforces some of the things they learned at home. Maybe they are preparing a menu in which there's one menu that is for a meat meal and one menu that's for a parve meal or for a dairy meal or a vegetarian meal. How are they applying what they have studied? And then, are you wanting to use some of that time to engage them in a discussion? They're adult learners. So is it some of the concepts and grappling and thinking critically about why kashrut might be meaningful to their expanding practice, its relevance to modern American life, and contemporary, maybe they're discussing contemporary approaches to kashrut observance. But thinking really clearly about, if you feel that there's something that they need to know, what does it mean to need to know? I want you to think about the times where you've been as learners in a course where you had to memorize a lot or take a lot of notes. That's very common in college. What do you remember from those courses? It might be something that you memorized, but chances are it's a way that you had to apply that knowledge. So that's where I want to bring forward our conversation from this past week. A few of you said, one person in particular, that you're not really sure on the chart what constructing knowledge means. Well, that makes sense. We haven't spent much time on this yet. We haven't really talked about it. This will emerge a lot more in upcoming weeks. The main idea is that we will be focusing in this course on how, as educators, we can structure, introduce, provide, facilitate activities and assignments that enable students to have deeper understandings. Rather than depositing knowledge in their brains, how can we help them to make meaning of material? So for example, last week I could have posted a 3-page lecture and some diagrams and some pictures of different images of teaching and asked you to take it in. That is one thing I could have done. I did give some content last week, and then I asked you to engage in a discussion, and I sparked that discussion through the questions that I asked you. And through this discussion, you posed questions to one another, started grappling with certain issues and ideas and theories about what it means to teach, and began to posit your own understandings of what is a teacher and what is a good teacher. So that's just one example of helping learners to construct knowledge, and we'll build upon this in future weeks. As I said a few weeks ago, there is no one-size-fits-all for this course. You all have different experiences in the field, you all work in different parts of the country, you have a wide array of perspectives. This week is about beginning to explore your voice as an educator, what is authentic to you. And as you'll see from this week, what I mean by voice is not just the voice that comes out of our throat. It is everything that encompasses who we are as an educator, how we make eye contact, how we use our hands, how we display enthusiasm and transmit enthusiasm about material. All the things that encompass us as educators. By the end of this course, you will be able to clearly communicate your approach to teaching and demonstrate how the types of activities, assessments, and strategies you choose reflect your overarching beliefs and values. As we engage together in this endeavor about reflective practicing, we will become clearer on the kinds of educators we want to be and why we do what we do. So continue on.